Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy, your weekly video game news podcast, broadcasting live Fridays 7 to 8 p.m. on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast. It is a very slasher spooky Friday the 13th.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it is Friday the 13th, isn't it?
yeah, I have seen so many fantastic Jason Voorhees memes, or maybe it was the other one. I don't know. Whatever the Friday the 13th killer is
Yeah, it's
named.
Jason Voorhees.
Okay, good. So I'm
Oh,
Lex.
it's his mom in the first one.
Oh my God, that's true. We really, Jason Voorhees' mother is really underappreciated. She needs to get
She
more
is.
credit.
She's a great lady.
But, yeah, I'm Lex, and I'm joined by my erstwhile co-host.
Booge.
And we have all sorts of gaming news to talk about this week. A couple big stories, and then a lot of little ones, just crammed into the middle there. Can we get through all of them? Probably not, but let's just give
Probably
that
not.
rundown. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about Bosskey's newly announced game that we were. I think they had said they were working on something last week, but no one expected it to be announced this soon or be playable this soon. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about Donkey Kong high scores. Then we're going to be talking about the FTC versus game console makers, followed by Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, followed by
Yay.
Rockstar's Golden Child, followed by Spying on Valve, followed by a secret studio, and then finally bully hunting. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about games that just came out and games that are about to come out. I may, at the end of the show, mention a fantastic David Harbour vid. We're going to see. We're going to see how it goes.
He's a great man.
So, Chris, get us into our first story here.
So, Bosskey, Cliff Bleszinski's studio, were the recent makers of Lawbreakers. We reported, not last week, maybe the week before, that they're stopping development on Lawbreakers. Lawbreakers came out, did miserably bad, and they said, you know what, we can't afford to keep supporting this. And they're like, we may make it go free to play sometime in the future, but even that in itself takes a lot of work. So we're moving on, and we talked a little bit about how it's like, well, that's really unfortunate for them because they're a smallish studio, and you know, it costs a lot of money to switch gears like that. And we were talking about how, like, you know, I wonder what their next kind of game is going to be, how long it'll be. Maybe someone will just buy them out completely. And then a week goes by, and they're like, hey, we have a free-to-play Battle Royale game coming out right now. It's out now. You can play it right now in early access. And it's called Radical Heights. And it is a 80s free-to-play Battle Royale game. And who the fuck knew that they would come out with this quickly? This is, I think, pretty shocking. That they said that they were working on something, but it being this was not my first guess whatsoever. Yeah, it is incredibly early access. I watched some of it, and like most of the buildings don't actually have textures yet. They just have like they're just gray slates. It's really janky. You fall through the ground all the time, and like the water isn't water yet. It's real early access, but I think there are some cool elements to it, such as collecting cash. There's funny things like if there's a loot box that drops in the world, you have to sit through a jingle and like a bunch of people cheering, which plays out to everyone in the game world so they can hear it while you wait to get your shit. Like the wall of death is like VHS static. There's a lot of fun stuff in it, but who knows? People are not super hyped about it. People are pretty angry. In fact, some people are about how Bosskey turned around and made this what very much seems like a cash grab, a desperate cash grab, in the battle royale market. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it takes hold, if people actually end up playing it a lot or not. I don't know. What do you think of all this?
Oh God, it just reeks of desperation. This whole
Yeah.
project, everything about the way they handled the project reeks of desperation. The fact that last week or the week before they shut down Lawbreakers and we're like, oh, we're working on something, and then immediately we're like, hey, something's up, just tells me Oh God, you guys desperately need money. You don't have any money. The fact that it was put up so soon and that shows so blatantly in the game. I mean, I've watched a lot of gameplay footage of this, and yeah, it's just super glitchy and awful. Really bad first impression for a product. I know it's early access, but even so.
It's pretty bad even for early
Yeah,
access.
and then the fact that it is a battle royale game, which is obviously chasing trends, and even the fact that it's an '80s game,
Yeah,
like inspired game, because that's like a not a trend in video gaming, but it's a trend in media overall right now. So
absolutely.
everything about this game, except for the game show angle of it, that I don't know if you mentioned it because I wasn't paying attention, nor do I ever pay attention when you talk.
I
But
know.
the likeness to
Yeah, Smash TV.
Smash TV, yes. I keep wanting to call it Smash Cast, and I'm like, that's definitely not what it was called. That's what
No.
like Twitch used to be called or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the likeness to that I think is clever and amusing. Other things about it, and it's especially sad because you look at Lawbreakers, and Lawbreakers was also chasing a trend because it was a hero shooter.
Yeah.
But at least you can look at Lawbreakers and say, oh, this is a game that looks like it has a lot of polish, a lot of thought went into it. It has some interesting mechanics, and those things didn't end up working out very well for them because they weren't as interesting as they looked. But at least at first glance, you were like, oh, okay, this is a real video game that a real
Yeah.
studio made. Whereas
And it was
Radical Heights doesn't look like that.
no, yeah, it looks. I mean, yeah, like Lawbreakers was gorgeous too. Like graphically, it was really, really good looking. Yeah, and this looks like. I mean, it reminds me of when PUBG first came out. This is even glitchier than when PUBG first came out. But yeah, it looks like a non-professional studio making a game. And yeah, this is. I mean, the '80s stuff, the battle royale thing. This is like peak. We're in peak. What people like territory in 2018 right now. But yeah, the game show thing, I like that excuse me, aspect as well. Yeah, and it's something that's not really explored too much in video games. So is this the game? Because as we know, Lex is the chief, the king of '80s nostalgia chasing. Is this the game that will get you into battle royale games because of the radical '80s-ness of it?
Okay, when I first heard about it, I was actually like, ooh, maybe this is the game that's going to get me into Battle Royale games. Ooh, so it looks so cool. And I had seen a couple screenshots. And then I went and watched gameplay of it. And there are aspects of the game that look really cool and interestingly designed, like these weird little doors that open up that have all of that have loot inside of them. I don't know if those are like loot box drops, but they seem like weird little closets that open up in certain
Yeah,
areas.
yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, there's like, yeah, they show up and you, yeah, make a bunch of noise and shit like that.
And like those seem like they were out of an '80s TV show, and the costumes that the characters were wearing, although not in good resolution, but they looked very '80s, and a few random other graphical assets that showed up in the game looked cool in '80s, and everything else looked like PUBG.
Yeah,
Like all
yeah,
of these houses that were like looked like cardboard cutouts with nothing inside them,
yeah,
and I was just like, there's nothing like stylistic about any of this other stuff because clearly like they haven't had time to make any of that yet because this
yeah.
game was
They've only,
rushed into early access so fast.
yeah, they've only worked on it for like 5 months or something.
Yeah, so I looked at it and I was like, oh, yeah, if they weren't showing us like a pre-alpha build of this game and I was actually seeing it as the final product, it might actually look enjoyable and cool. But as it is right now, it looks real bad, just really bad.
It does. And I do question some things though. Like one thing that I actually, one of the funnier things about it is I like how there's no parachute. I don't know if that's because they just haven't programmed a parachute yet, or it's a stylistic choice that you just fall from the sky and then when you hit the ground you just roll. Like you just do a roll when you hit the ground. I'm like, if that's intentional, that's pretty funny. And also, were BMX bikes an '80s thing?
Yes.
Like I feel, were they?
Yep.
Okay.
There's a
'Cause
bunch of movies that highlight that. Yeah.
Okay, I always felt that BMX bikes were like a late '90s, early 2000s thing.
No,
But
no.
maybe that's just when I was getting into them.
They might have had a bit of a comeback then, but there's definitely a lot of they're a lesser known subset of 80s teen movies that are all about their like bikes. And then when the 90s showed up, it became all about their skateboards. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But yeah, no, BMX bikes were a big thing in the 80s.
And then they're like in the early 2000s for just a scant minute, there it was all about racer scooters.
Yes, just a moment. Which actually was funny. It was like there was 2 or 3 seconds that were about razor scooters, and then on the tail end of that, there was 1 second that were about those shoes that had the wheels on the bottom of them.
Heelys?
Yeah, and then luckily that went away, and we never heard about them again. But
The most recent thing are those stupid. They're like skateboards, but only with two wheels, and you have to like fucking shimmy back and forth to get any momentum. You know what I'm talking about?
oh, I've seen those. Yeah, it was dumb.
Yeah. This does not make sense.
Speaking of things from the 80s,
Yeah.
you ever
And beyond.
played Donkey Kong?
Nope. Never.
Yeah, neither have I. You ever heard of super douchebag Billy Mitchell?
Only from a documentary that came out a little while ago.
I will point out this is a story from NPR because I really wanted to cite a story from NPR.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
But yeah, this is from NPR. It's from yesterday, April 12th. And it is about how Billy Mitchell, one of the controversial characters from The King of Kong, and the guy who had the record for highest score in Donkey Kong, has been taken off the record books. Stricken, that was the word. What is the Twin Galaxies,
Yes.
who keep the records of all this stuff, have stripped him of all of his video game world records, and they have announced that he is banned from future leaderboards as well. So he's just done. He's out. It's over for him.
It's done.
And the reason for this is because, and I think this was actually a story that originally surfaced like a while ago, but there was a whole thing with him where people were reviewing his game footage and they were looking at it, and someone had pointed out like, oh, there's some weird like there's some weird thing with the frame rate of this, or the way like the scenes transitioned or something that was a way that the arcade cabinets did not look, but the footage would look if it was played on an emulator. And
dun, dun.
And you can't do stuff with an emulator because because on the baseline it's because you're able to get higher scores because of the way the software runs, just in a general sense, but also because if you're running on an emulator, that means you can manipulate things about the software and essentially cheat. So though it's a big no-no to do stuff like that. Got to do it on the original cabinet. And when they did the investigation into it, they concluded that it was an emulation. So that's what led them to strip him of all of his record titles.
You done, Billy Mitchell?
Get out of here, you weirdo. The thing that I always remember Billy Mitchell from, because I didn't watch the King of Kong, nor do I care at all about high scores in video games, especially old video games. But there, if anyone's ever watched that show, Regular Show, there is an episode where they have to do a high score on a video game, and a giant head comes down from space, and it's just like obviously Billy Mitchell's head, and he fights them for the high score thing, and I think there was even a story about how like he tried to sue the creators of the show at one point for that.
Oh, really?
Because he didn't want them to use his likeness, and they were like, "But it's not you; it's just a floating head that has similar hair and facial hair to you." And is really good at this game that's like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, he just looks like an evil motherfucker, just like his actual face.
Yeah.
Like, look at that picture, that fucking picture. Looks like he's a fucking Spider-Man villain or something.
Yes, I was gonna say it's I would say James Bond villain, but he's not serious enough. So he would have to be like a goofy Spider-Man villain.
He looks like a Die-Hard villain.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Like Hans Gruber's cousin.
Exactly. He's just in it for the money. This is interesting. It like good on Twin Galaxies. I've heard the name before, and I actually had to look into what they do, in that they're basically the Guinness Book of Records for video game stuff. Good for them, I guess. But I also I wonder what how big is the Donkey Kong high score community? You know what I mean? Like that does not seem like something that a lot of people probably care about. But I guess that I mean, it's the reason why it's on NPR right now is that it's like the people at large know what Donkey Kong is, right?
Yeah.
Like it resonates to like a mainstream audience, and when you have Hans Gruber being a jackass, I guess then it makes for an interesting news story. But yeah, I guess yeah, if he deserves everything that happens to him because you shouldn't fucking cheat. Like another thing too that it amazes me. This actually amazes me across the board with video games, where if you're good enough like this, he's obviously incredibly good at Donkey Kong, whether he cheated or not, right?
Yeah.
If you're that good, why cheat? Like I always wonder about that, like in other competitive video games and stuff. It's like if you're that good already, why is it really that important to have that little bit of competitive edge? I don't know.
I mean,
seems
it
strange to
could
me.
be partially because, as you said, the community is so small and nobody really thinks of that. So the only way that you can be notable is to be the best. No one cares about the person who's second or third place.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is some people are just horrible. So that might be all that is.
Yeah, they just like to fucking be evil.
And it's sort of one of those things where, because we found out he was definitely using emulation, that to me the chances that he was not cheating are basically zero, because you've got because that the world record place won't accept stuff that's not emulation.
Right.
So if you're using emulation, then it's like, oh, okay, what was like, maybe you weren't cheating, but then you're just a huge idiot.
Right.
And you would probably be like, no, I could prove this without that, and then you would go and use a real cabinet, but then nothing like that has happened. So, he's done. Get him out of here.
He's done. Get him out of here. Get Billy Mitchell out. The only positive thing that could happen is that we could get Ira Glass reporting on the story.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's like Billy Mitchell. I can't do a good Ira Glass. Anyways, yeah, fuck him.
So moving from
Billy Mitchell, not Ira Glass. Ira Glass is awesome.
Yeah, no, I understand. Moving from that to the government. Regulation. In a good way. A way in which government regulation is being helpful. So the FTC...
Oh, wait a minute, sorry. I just realized what would even be better than Ira Glass.
What?
Is if the next season of Serial was about Billy Mitchell.
Yes.
It's just like, I'm Sarah Koenig. Billy Mitchell was once really good at Donkey Kong, but we have to ask, how good? This is Serial. Yeah, that's what it should be.
Good. So
screw the military and potential murder people.
We got to talk about Donkey Kong, guys. Of course.
I got to talk about Donkey Kong. Yeah.
So in a story from today from Polygon, we learned that the FTC has warned console makers about warranty restrictions.
I read this article like 3 times and I still don't fully understand it.
This app plays into something that we talked about last year and then reviewed for our New Year's retrospective. So if you want a bunch of more information on that, go back and listen to the 2017 retrospective we did, because there's a huge piece in there about that. But it's about right to repair.
Oh, okay.
And basically what had happened was you can... I'm zoomed in a little too far on this. That's like a
big old hand on a big old console.
Yeah. What you could do as a consumer is you, according to the way the law works now, is you get to have your console repaired by third-party repair shops. Also, as long as, and this article goes into it a little bit, as long as there's parts in the console from third-party companies, which is kind of a weird way to do that, but whatever, bear with me. The idea here is that a lot of companies, 6 unnamed companies, including ones that, quote, market and sell video games, have been warned
Ellipses
by
video game systems.
yes, have been warned by the Federal Trade Commission that they cannot condition warranty coverage of their products on the consumer's use of certain parts or service providers. So this is basically saying, like, this ruling happened last year. That is now the law, basically. But a lot of these companies that make gaming systems have not either have renewed their warranties and not changed them to be in accordance with the law because they were hoping no one would notice, or have written new warranties that are not in accordance with the law. And the FTC is like, no, you gotta let people repair stuff because that's what the law is now. And so no legal action has been taken yet. It's just been like, hey, we're warning you. You gotta let people do this. Because the companies have not stopped people from doing this yet, supposedly. And what is it saying here? The upshot is that a company cannot void a warranty or deny a consumer warranty coverage because they use a third-party part in its operation or because it's been serviced by someone not on a company's list of authorized providers. And that last part is the important part. Or I should say the first part and the last part are the important parts, which is if you have a warranty and your system breaks and you go and get it repaired by some mom and pop shop, you cannot void the warranty for doing that.
Right.
That's the way the law works now. So the FTC was like, yes, that's the way the law works now. You can't write your warranties to be voided if that happens. Which is great for the consumers and for small businesses. So
it is.
It's cool. And it's one of those things where, again, like, because we have covered the story in much greater detail before, I didn't want to dwell on this too much. It's just kind of an interesting, like, new development for it. And the fact that the FTC is paying attention to this and is saying, like, hey, listen, we're going to enforce this is good news to me. I'm glad that that happened.
Yeah, because assumedly what the console makers want is for you to just have to buy a new console if it breaks, right?
Yes.
Like, they don't want you to fix it.
Yeah, they give warranties that have fairly limited windows, and within those windows, the only way you can get that console fixed is if you send it back to the company that made it.
Right.
Because that way, sure, they're the ones that have to repair it, but it's...
They probably just give you, like, restock. I mean, yeah, they're making the money anyways.
Yeah,
like,
and because it's more of a limited time, it's just like, oh well, I guess later you'll just have to buy a new one. And the defense that a lot of these game system makers use is that they don't want people to hack the consoles and, like, run emulators or other things on them.
Sure.
And if they're saying, well, if anybody can crack them open to repair them, then that's what will happen. But that's not really what happens. Not in the majority of circumstances.
Not in the majority, no. You have to know what you're doing to you have to even know what you're doing to get in contact with someone to do shit like that for you. So yeah, if you're just an average consumer, chances are if your Switch breaks, you just want to take it to someone and have it fixed. You don't want to have to. You're not like, well, I was gonna say like me, and the only thing I'm thinking about is like, how can I get flash carts to work in a Switch so that I can play everything on it. But I'm not a majority user. So yeah, good on the FTC for putting the foot down and keeping these companies honest.
Yeah, and if you want to look at your system's warranty and find out things that might be illegal, the FTC says in this article, the FTC, again, not naming any company, provided 3 examples of questionable provisions that it had found in these warranties. So if the warranty says something like, the use of company name parts is required to keep your ... manufacturer's warranties and any extended warranties intact. This warranty shall not apply if this product ... is used with products not sold or licensed by company name, which is actually a super interesting thing because it's basically talking about third-party, like, peripheral stuff.
Right.
And saying how, like, you can't void your warranty for using third-party things.
Yeah.
And it says this warranty does not apply to this product if ... has had any warranty seal on the product altered, defaced, or removed, which I assume just applies to the right to repair thing. Because if you're if it's being cracked open to be repaired, then seals are probably going to be broken. But yeah, so this is great. It's a great little development.
Let us mess with our damn consoles.
Yeah,
Sony.
dude, we paid for them. Let us freaking try and repair them if we want to repair them. I would even go so far, because I'm a horrible anarchist,
Ooh.
to say, let us hack them if we want to hack them. We pay
Yeah.
for them. Um,
They are our property.
so, moving on to Pillars of Eternity 2.
Yay! Pillars of Eternity 2. So, Pillars of Eternity 1 is maybe one of my favorite games of like the past decade or more. It is an absolutely amazing game. If you're not familiar, it is basically a Obsidian, the company Obsidian, who made like Fallout New Vegas and other games I can't think of right now. Basically staffed with a bunch of old-timey RPG experts, and they wanted to make a game that was very much like the old Infinity Engine games from Black Isle Studios, including like Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale and Planescape Torment. And so they went on Kickstarter, and they got a shit ton of money, and it was one of the first fully successful video game Kickstarters, and they went through it, and actually it came out, and it was actually fucking amazing. It's an incredible game. Played it for well over, I think, 150 hours. And two of the voices in the game, the voice two of the kind of important party members is Matthew Mercer, who is a voice actor and dungeon master for Critical Role, which is the most popular live stream D&D show. I think that's how they say it, actually. It's like the most popular or something like that, biggest group or something.
Yeah.
And so for the sequel to Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, Critical Role is going to be, the cast of Critical Role is going to be voicing, all of them are going to be voicing characters. And even more than that, their characters from the first season of Critical Role are going to be usable. Their voices are going to be usable for if you make a custom party, instead of just picking up pre-written party members as you go along. And I think that's fucking awesome because I love both of these things.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great combo.
And I think it's kind of surprising. I did not expect this. Pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, it's also side note about Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. I was on Amazon the other day, and I was looking at for upcoming Nintendo Switch games that were available for pre-order, and Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is a Nintendo Switch game available for pre-order.
Yes, it is.
Although its release date is like Christmas 2018.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to get bumped up or bumped back. Like, I don't know how solid that date is.
Well, it's coming out next month.
Yeah, for everything else.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm excited about it.
I don't know how hard it... I think at least Pillars of Eternity 1, I think, is based on Unity, I think. So, I mean, it probably can't be too hard to port over onto Switch. How it would control is another thing. I can't imagine playing that game without a mouse and keyboard.
Well, the Switch has a touchscreen, so...
That's true.
Might make that a little easier. I don't know how much they'll incorporate it. But so I'm pretty jazzed about that game in more ways now. It's good.
Yeah. And did you play the first one?
A little bit.
Yeah. That's really good. They also announced and this is, we're mixing fandoms here. Lex and I are D&D players, and we're both fans of Critical Role. And they announced who the people are going to be playing. And Taliesin Jaffe's playing Aothis, who is a god.
Of course he is.
I'm like, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. So yeah, it's super cool, and I think it's also a sign of how much. And this is not a D&D podcast, but it shows how much D&D is on the rise. Often people talk about the renaissance of tabletop games, and if that is the truth, then Critical Role are certainly the ambassadors of D&D to the world. And the fact that they're basically this tied into, games, semi-popular games. I would not call Pillars of Eternity like a fucking, it's not like Call of Duty or something, but it's pretty popular. And the fact that they're tied that closely shows that it's, pretty influential, I would say.
Yeah, and it makes sense to tie itself back in these kind of ways to Dungeons & Dragons because so much of the game is like Baldur's Gate, like you said earlier, which was obviously a Dungeons & Dragons licensed product back in the day.
Yep.
I feel like if the timeline was very different. And we had Twitch streaming in the 90s when Baldur's Gate first came out. Critical Role would have been like that cast would have been like DLC or expansion pack for that game.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, so cool. Happy about that.
Cool. Yes, very cool.
Moving on to something that Rockstar thinks is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, apparently everyone in the world thinks is cool.
Yeah.
So GTA 5 is the most profitable entertainment product, period, of all time. That's crazy. This is from GameIndustry.biz, and they usually have their shit together when it comes to the making money portion of video games. The success of Grand Theft Auto 5 is well documented, but a fresh report from MarketWatch offers more insight into the record-breaking impact of the hugely popular game. The site reports that with 90 million sales worldwide and $6 billion in revenue, GTA 5 is, quote, the most financially successful media title of all time. Excuse me. While the report primarily makes comparisons with films, this almost certainly encompasses books, music, and other entertainment products as well. The $6 billion revenue, for example, is far past the $4 billion achieved by best-selling films such as Star Wars and fucking Gone with the Wind, even adjusted for inflation. Even the highest-grossing film of all time, James Cameron's Avatar, which made $2.8 billion, failed to match even half of the money taken by Grand Theft Auto. And then they go on to say that it's not totally clear what the $6 billion is based on, and if it includes recurrent consumer spending. It absolutely does.
Microtransaction.
MTX. Is that what one of those people were calling it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta love that recurrent consumer spending. Yeah. There's other games that are kind of not even really that close to it, but it is definitely on top. They say, in fact, if you had to combine the sales of GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, and GTA 4 together to match GTA 5 sales figures, and I thought one of the funniest things at the bottom, where they say they basically talk about how it's a wild outlier. That even for Rockstar, the success of this game is an outlier for them and an outlier for the video games industry and the media industry as a whole. And then one of the analysts says, quote, that's not to say Rockstar won't have another big hit. It may, but not another another GTA 5 isn't likely. Michael Jackson had a lot of hit albums, but he only had one Thriller. And that's pretty apt. This is not too surprising that GTA 5 is the best-selling thing of all time. Because we've heard about it, just breaking records month after month after month. And, the thing, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it's not surprising that it's reached this point now, but I remember, I started thinking, it surprises me that it was this game. GTA 5, yes, Rockstar's games are always super popular, and they have the marketing budget to push it, but, GTA 5, really? This is the one? This is the one that is the biggest thing of all time? It's kind of it's a kind of a weird game, even as far as games go, it's like a modern setting with lots of copious amounts of swearing and sex jokes, and you play 3 characters, and it's about bank robbery. It's not I don't know, a classic shooter or something like that. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, what you just described to me, aside from the fact that you play 3 characters, all of those sound like things that would give you best-selling game material.
Well,
at least in the US.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, and it's funny, too, because it's made primarily by a non-US company. And it's... But really, bank robbery, I don't know. I guess I guess history has taught me that the best-selling games of all time should be like Halo or some kind of shooter. You know what I mean? Something where you just shoot people in first person and that's that. But it's Grand Theft Auto. That's actually another amazing thing. It's not for the longest time. It wasn't a first-person game either. They added the first-person mode for the PC, but it's not a first-person game. It's not I don't know. It's always just surprised me because it has so many kind of weird idiosyncrasies. All the GTA games do. All Rockstar's games do in general. But it just always amazes me that it's that's the one. That's the one that fucking made all the money. This strange game.
We know that the GTA games have been making headlines for a long time, not always in good ways. But
since they came out, ever since the first one.
Mm-hmm. And I think that what has happened is that a lot of those other games, like when the GTA games start getting really good, when you have like your Grand Theft Auto 3, your
Mhm.
Grand Theft Auto 4, it sort of started laying the groundwork for everyone to be like, oh, this is a really good franchise that's worth checking out because their
Mhm.
games are always great. And I think when 5 came out, two things happened. One, the groundwork was already there, and it managed to attract new people. And then it introduced that online component,
Yeah, the
and
online was big.
yeah, and all of the microtransaction stuff that goes along with that. And that was just kind of the perfect storm for this game.
Yeah, they also mentioned in this article that it it had a staggered release because it was released first on Xbox 360 and PS3, and then on Xbox One, PS4, and then eventually on PC. So it had three kind of windows in which to make a shit ton of money as well,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure contributed. But yeah, good for them, I guess. Like, um, I'd like to see Red Dead Redemption do those kind of numbers. I don't think it will not do those kind of numbers, but I don't think anything will. But yeah, I mean that's a crazy thing too. Is that as much as they're controversial and they make headlines and all this, they're really fucking good games.
Oh, yeah.
They're really, really incredibly well made games with a lot of attention and a lot of money put behind them. So yeah, good for them, I guess.
Red Dead Redemption
It's
is a
it's,
western.
it's
People don't like westerns that much. It's not the 1950s anymore.
oh come on, yeah, I know. That's
Um,
what everyone said before the first one came out, and that did incredibly well.
yeah.
Yeah, and so fuck you, Marvel Studios. Video games are better than your boring fucking movies that are insipid and stupid.
Just wait. I read a story the other day about how so far in pre-ticket sales, Infinity War, the Marvel movie about to come out, for those who don't know, has sold double the amount of tickets on Fandango that Black Panther did at this point before its release.
Oh,
And Black Panther, for those who don't know, is like approaching being one of the highest grossing movies of all time.
yeah,
Uh,
that's crazy.
so, so if the early numbers indicate Infinity War will be double as profitable as Black Panther,
Yeah.
which means it will be the highest grossing movie of all time. But
So Avatar is still like the biggest grossing movie of all time. None of the Marvel movies have broken that yet.
I thought it was still Titanic.
Is it
Like
still?
after adjusting for inflation.
Yeah, some James Cameron movie.
Some James Cameron movie. Or Gone with the Wind, maybe. But yeah, a lot of the Marvel movies are in that top 5, but they haven't been able to break into the number 1 spot. But you know, my speculation right now is Infinity War is gonna break into the number 1 spot,
Probably.
unless it's really bad. And then
Unless
it just makes a ton of money its opening weekend, and then ticket sales taper off. But I feel
it's
like as
possibility.
long as it's a solidly good movie, then it's going to become probably the highest grossing movie of all time.
Probably. I bet that every studio head in the world has their head spinning trying to figure out how to put microtransactions into their movies.
Yes, no, exactly. That's definitely something people are trying to figure out.
Yeah,
I don't know how they do it, but they're going to find a way.
they're trying. They're trying hard.
It'll probably involve some sort of phone app, but then everyone will be using their phones during the movie. It'll be horrible.
But that's what happens anyways now. So.
Yeah, I know, right? They'll just embrace it. They'll be like, if you're going to have your phones on anyway, at least run this app.
Yeah, exactly. Make us more money.
Yeah. So, okay. Moving on to Steam Spy.
Rip.
So yeah,
Lost some
sad news
pepperonis.
today, or not today, but the 10th. Steam Spy announces it's shutting down, and it blames Valve's new privacy settings. So, basically, this week what happened is Valve announced that they're going to change their privacy settings on their on Steam, and they're going to make a lot of your gamer data, like what games you have, how many hours you've played them, when you're playing, stuff like that, invisible to most people. Or rather, if you want to make it visible, it's an opt-in thing. It doesn't start visible to everyone, to the general public. Many people have assumed that this is because of all the controversy that's going on with Facebook right now, and Valve is trying to be like, we're a giant software platform that everybody uses. Maybe we should try to safeguard people's information better.
We don't want Gabe Newell in front of Congress in a month.
Oh my god, I would love to see Gabe Newell in
That
front
would
of
be
Congress.
Yeah, because Gabe Newell's actually, well, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg's an intelligent guy, but Gabe Newell's like a fucking, like a hive mind computer person.
I know. Well, I loved watching the Mark Zuckerberg Congress
Yeah,
hearings
I
just
did too.
because it
I
was
did
funny
too.
to see how stupid Congress was.
Yeah. Senator, the internet's a place you can go with information. No, Senator. Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, seeing Gabe Newell do that would be amazing. I would love to see
Mhm.
that. But yeah, so the let's see. Do we have a statement about this? Not from
From
Valve, but
Steam
we have a
Spy?
statement from Steam Spy. Steam Spy is basically saying, "Hey, look, the way we get our information, because for those who don't know, Steam Spy basically gives us the numbers that Steam doesn't want to give us, which is how many people have bought certain titles, how much they're playing them, so basically how well these titles are doing." And they get all that information by having software that skims everyone's public data and
Yeah.
just sees what they're playing and what they have.
Yeah. Because until now, until these privacy settings were enacted, Steam always is counting what you're playing. So it was really easy to kind of put a broad algorithmic scrape of all that data and then just compile it, which is what Steam Spy did.
And it's not like, I mean, with the Facebook situation, right? There's people who were scraping data, whether they were allowed to or not by Facebook, but then they're
Yeah.
using this data for targeted advertisement.
Mhm.
So they're basically taking advantage of people and trying to make money off of them with this data that they've scraped. Whereas Steam Spy isn't doing anything like that. They're just trying to give people a clear idea of what sales look like on Steam and what is
Yeah.
popular. So they're really just providing a public service, giving us the information that Valve refuses to give us because they're too close-fisted with their data. Let's see here. We have a statement. The core of our data comes from the individual profile pages on Valve's community, SteamCommunity.com social portal, such as the one for yours truly. Prominent on each of these public pages, again, just a click away, is a list of every game that Steam users have registered to their accounts. This page also lists how many hours you've played for each of these titles. So yeah, they also talked about how in the past when they did this, they had their software was able to figure out these numbers and would generate a margin of error only 0.33% from the actual numbers statistically.
That's impressive. I never knew that Steam Spy was that accurate.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool, but now it's sad because they're closing.
They can't do what they're going to do anymore. Yeah, it's very sad. I tweeted to a friend of mine who was also a writer for a video games website, and he said, like, rest in pepperonis, Steam Spy or something like that. And I said, like, the games enthusiast press as a whole just collectively dropped one tear from their eyes, and that's what it is. I mean, we talked about back when Reset Era, NeoGAF, went down initially, and everyone was kind of freaking out. And I said that basically, like, NeoGAF was more or less the AP Newswire for most video game writers, or enthusiast press writers. And Steam Spy is like that too. I don't know of a single person that writes for video game press that doesn't have an eye on Steam Spy almost all the time, because because like you said, Steam plays its cards close to its chest, and they never really announce any exact amounts for what their games are selling. And so Steam Spy was like the only quantitative data accumulation that we could get on games, and especially on Steam, which is where the games industry is moving the fastest and where trends are being set the fastest. It was extremely helpful to be able to see to look into the heads of the greater public that was on Steam to see what they were playing and what they were interested in. Was very, I think, revealing from an enthusiast press standpoint.
Definitely. So sad day. Maybe Valve. Maybe people can pressure Valve into releasing some of these numbers, but they probably won't. And even if they do, we always have to be skeptical because it's them releasing the numbers and not an independent body.
This isn't like Japanese companies that kind of have to, or usually they always release their numbers no matter how they're good or bad.
Yeah.
Western companies don't have to do that. That's why you never have a solid number on Xbox Ones, because Xbox is not doing as well as PlayStation. So they're like, no, we had a really good month. And it's like, what does that mean? They're like, really good month. All right, shut up and stop asking us.
Shut up, kid. Get out of here.
Shut up, kid. Stay in school. Yeah. But it's one of those things that I I guess I'm not. I don't know. I'm not a business major or anything, so I don't know why this happens. But I always wonder why companies like Netflix and Amazon and Steam don't release their numbers of what people, not even their numbers of how well they're doing, but the numbers of what people are watching. Out all that data. Like, why won't I don't know why they won't release that kind of stuff. Because I just don't see. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm sure there's some kind of businessy reason, but like, I don't know why Netflix doesn't tell us what the most watched things are and like what people are watching at what times and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that can't hurt them really. But I don't know. Steam does the same thing too, so must be some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next story, I'm going to ask. We're a little lower on time than I was hoping. So how quickly can you talk about secrets to me?
Very quick, because there really isn't much to talk about here. Basically, what's his name? Jason Schreier from Kotaku he did one of his his classic posts. Is a long investigative piece about Hangar 13, which was the makers of Mafia 3. And it's actually an incredible read. I suggest reading it. It's long and it's in depth, but it basically talks about like why did they fuck that game up, essentially. It's really interesting. But in a little bit of it, he mentioned that right next door is a secretive 2K studio that is in the early developments of a secretive new Bioshock game. He talks about it kind of in the fact that like they're super, super tight-lipped. They're also a really small team right now, so it's probably very early in development. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So Bioshock is being worked on to some capacity. It's just who knows when we'll actually see it. I'm honestly surprised. I know that 2K had always talked about how Bioshock is one of their flagship franchises and that they always meant to go back to it, but it's sooner than I thought. I thought they were going to put that thing on ice for a while before they came back to it, but apparently it's already in development to some degree.
Well, it's cool. It's a fun little thing to learn for Bioshock fans.
Yeah, and I love Bioshock. So I'll be surprised to see what it's like without what's his face, the guy that developed them.
I mean, I'm really glad when they did. Shoot, what was it called? Was it Bioshock Infinite? When they went to a different setting.
Yeah, Infinite was the last one there.
I think that was something the series desperately needed at that point, and I'm kind of hoping that they decide to keep with that trend and just go to new places and explore new concepts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they go more, because Bioshock 1 and Bioshock Infinite, Bioshock 1 and 2 and then Bioshock Infinite are very kind of different games. So I'm interested to see if they kind of go back to a Bioshock 1, Bioshock 2 kind of style, or if they stick with the more combat-heavy Bioshock Infinite, or if they make it a Battle Royale game or something.
Oh yeah, they'll make it a Battle Royale game. That's what's happening.
Yeah, that's probably what's happening.
Or whatever game is popular by the time it actually comes out. Maybe
Last
it'll be
Big Daddy alive.
Maybe it'll be a Bioshock card game.
Yeah, they'll get on that already dead horse.
Yep. So let's talk about hunting bullies.
Yeah.
Story from PC Gamer from the 11th. Elite women gamers team up to destroy online bullies and abusers in CSGO. This whole ad campaign popped up this week. Or maybe it was earlier this week, but I believe it was just this week. And it was about how, like, hey, we're this organization called Bully Hunters. I think different articles referred to them as a vigilante group, which I was like, what?
That's not a word you want to be thrown around.
I know, right? So it's a a group of people who are basically like, we don't like that in video games, specifically in CSGO, that you have these people who go on and just say horrible garbage to female players just because they're women, say a lot of horrible sexual things to them. It's awful. And that kind of thing has been a problem in the game community for a long time. As soon as we got voice chat with online games and shooters, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
as soon as someone could be anonymous.
Yes. Which is another vigilante organization on the internet.
It is. It's true.
But so they were saying, okay, we're going to try and push back against that. And the initial sort of advertising for it was, we're going to have basically you can call in if you're a female gamer who is being harassed in a game at that moment. You can contact the bully hunters. They have a team of elite female gamers. One of those elite female gamers will then go into the game where you're being bullied, assess the situation, and then go after whoever is bullying you and kill them in game. Specifically because, again, we're talking about CSGO. And I saw that, and I was just like, what? Yeah, it's so weird. For one thing, the fact that they have elite gamers standing by for whenever someone's playing, that's weird. The fact that you will contact this person and then they will join your game. They friend you on Steam and then they join your game. And then they will, before that match ends, assess the entire situation of who the harasser is and if the harassment claim is legitimate.
Yeah, seems a little impossible.
Seems completely impossible. I mean, not in all circumstances. I'm sure some are pretty clear cut, but you're going to get way into the weeds if this is just a call-in service. And then they're going to go and take out that person in game, which is weird because that's what's already happening in the game. That's the whole goal of the game is to take out the other team. So they take out the person that's on the other team. Oh, and then they send them a special message that says harassment is not a game. And I'm just okay, well, this is super weird because, and I'm thinking about studies that I've read on cyberbullying, and a lot of the things we've learned from initial studies on this stuff is that it's usually the people who are already not good at the games who are cyberbullying more because they feel like they need to compensate.
Yeah. If you're really fucking good at CS, you don't have time to be shit talking.
Yeah, no, you don't. You're way too busy switching weapons really fast.
And running
and no scoping everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But so there's that. There's the aspect of it that would killing the cyberbully in game actually help the situation, which I feel like there is no evidence that it would actually make them stop bullying anyone.
Well, here's the biggest problem is that it's okay, so they take out the bully for a round. Okay, that doesn't stop them from speaking.
No, they're just going to come back the next round, and if they saw the message, they're probably just going to bully harder.
Right.
But also, what if the person who's cyberbullying is actually a CSGO pro player, and then the bully hunter shows up and can't beat them in game?
Right, yeah, because it is a game of skill, and some people are going to be better than other people, And then
it's just
going to happen.
And then, gosh, the amount of harassment that will be thrown at the original victim and the bully hunter organization will just be insane. But there's all that stuff going on that I want to dive into further, although we don't really have time. But on top of that, their advertisement says, hey, we're doing a live stream. You can watch us do this on Twitch on the 12th.
That's where my eyebrows jumped off my head.
Yes. And when I originally saw this advertising, and I thought this was, and a lot of the YouTube video ad is fairly slickly produced, but it's still, when they were referred to as a vigilante organization, I was thinking an organization like Anonymous, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, this is a group of people who don't want to reveal their identities, who do this, and we're going to see them Twitch stream them doing this. I'm actually kind of interested in seeing that Twitch stream because it seems super shady, but also kind of edgy and cool.
Sure. Yeah. So, and they're not doing stuff like doxing people or fucking
which is good. I'm glad they're
something.
not doxing anyone, because that certainly wouldn't help the situation.
No, because that's the shit that kind of Anonymous does, and some of it's not really helping the cause.
So I didn't know about the story until this morning, so I didn't get to watch it last night, but there are recordings of it. Mm-hmm. Man, it took me a hot minute when I was looking on, because they didn't have a VOD on Twitch that you could watch. So I was like, oh, I'm sure someone recorded this because this was something somebody was going to record. So I was looking on YouTube, and the first like several videos were just like, "Oh, here's the recording with commentary of how stupid it is," and I'm like, "No, that's or
I
like
want the original stupid thing.
yeah, or like opinion videos on how stupid it is that showed clips from it." And I'm like, "No, that's so dumb."
Yeah.
So I found a recording that was just a recording of the stream. It's I think the recording was 35 minutes, but there's at least 5 to 10 minutes that's just the, get ready, our stream's going to begin in a couple minutes that like all professional Twitch streamers do.
Yeah.
Which was my first tip off that this is not some random vigilante group.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't do that. And then it started, and it was a streamer, Zombie Unicorn, what's her name? Natalie Casanova, I think, who's been streaming on Twitch for years and years, who is a spokesperson for this campaign, and she's standing in front of the camera wearing like a blazer that has the symbol that is associated with the Bully Hunters thing on
Yeah.
it. She has
It's like a reticle, but made to look like the female symbol.
yes.
kind of
She has a microphone. She's standing in like a game lounge area. There's all this
There's
crazy
smoke.
dramatic lighting and smoke and stuff. She
Smoke
has
was when I
note
was like,
cards.
all right. I was like, all right, the smoke is when I just like drew the line.
Well, I started watching it, and I'm like, why am I watching an E3 press conference?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, or like an Evo thing or something.
It was, yeah, and that was what threw me so much because I did not think that's what it was going to be at all.
Yeah.
So it turns out there's an organization that has a lot of backers that are organizations that make and sell game gear.
Yeah.
Which was a little disappointing, but
Yeah, Steel Series, Vertigear, Cyberpower PC.
yes.
No.
And so they were the ones that are financing this and put together the whole thing. There was all this like Zombie Unicorn would throw back to a co-host who was talking about different things and who would like direct the producer to like bring up different videos of stuff. They explained how the website, I think there's also an app, works, and all that stuff, how you can sign up to be a bully hunter and how you can, if you're a victim, how you can contact them. And again, like I was saying earlier, the whole process just sounds like it would be very difficult for this to even all happen in one match, like time frame.
Right.
But what was the other thing? Then they brought in experts about sociology, psychology, talking about bullying in games, and the whole thing was overproduced and it was not well produced, which again made me think of an E3 press conference, right?
Sure.
So there's all of this production stuff going on, but there's still weird audio problems, and like they would try and cut to other people, they wouldn't immediately cut, so there would be like awkward pauses and stuff.
Yeah, and there's camera had like no frames or anything. It was just like, oh, okay, that's just someone sitting and like off to the side.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And all the dramatic lighting, it was just super weird to watch.
And all the quote unquote bully hunters are like sitting on a different stage with like hoodies on, so you can't see them at all and stuff.
There was also a studio audience. I want to point that out.
There was also studio audience, yeah. So I apologize for every single time that I laughed during the reading of this thing, because deep down, if this kind of thing has any little nugget of sincerity to it, then good for them. Because it is a serious fucking problem, and it's something I don't think you're going to be able to fix unless you just took out, voice chat from 99% of games. But if there is any sincerity in it, then absolutely good for them, and they should try their best. I don't think that the way they're going about it is going to help at all.
No.
But overall, to me, it smells of someone producing something to make money off of this as a stream and as like something to talk about, Which is it's kind of weird though, because like you have SteelSeries, Vertigear, Cyberpower PC, but you also have the diverse coalition, gaming coalition in the National Organization for Women, who probably have a sincere, want for this kind of thing to stop. But it's just the absolute weirdest way to go about it. It doesn't really make any sense. Like even just the fact that they're like elite female gamers helping other female games, like why is it only female gamers? Like wouldn't it be way more effective to hire people from whatever gender as long as that they were down to do this. It's like you wouldn't have like a suicide helpline with only people that had experienced suicidal thoughts before, like that kind of thing. Like I don't know, it just seemed like that seemed like a gimmick to me instead of like a sincere kind of way to try to fix this problem.
I think the reason why it felt like they're trying to sell us something is again going back to the fact that this felt like an E3 presentation, and in an E3 presentation they're literally trying to sell you something.
Yes.
So it's super, like, the way they chose to set this up and present it made it seem super corporate and like soulless and weird. And
There was a fog machine, for fuck's sake.
yeah, there was a fog machine. And like you said, yeah, I can tell you the way that they could do this that it would be effective. Is not to do anything that they're doing.
Right, exactly.
But instead get all of these organizations together, have the same spokespeople, have the same sociologists and psychologists and doctors that they brought in, and have those people get together, have a roundtable discussion about this issue, and then instead of having anonymous big name or anonymous elite female gamers show up to virtually kill harassers, instead get people like Tyler Blevins, to get people like Day 9, to get big streamers in the community who are known for their skills and their personality to be there at the table saying like, hey, harassment's not okay, and I don't stand for it, and I support this organization who doesn't stand for it. So to have those people out there, and then to use any money or influence they can accrue with that to lobby the government to put anti-harassment laws in place, and to lobby game studios to make to put anti-harassment laws in place in their online games.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, get Gabe Newell on that panel.
Yeah, no, that would be
like,
awesome. And it would be super effective because you're getting people that are noteworthy, that people respect and look up to say that harassment's not okay, and you're getting people that have the power to change things or can be influenced to change things, to try and put pressure on them to fix the systems that are clearly allowing for abuse.
Yeah, get Ninja Blevins, notable KKK member, Ninja Tyler Blevins.
He's
to
not
be
actually
like
a notable KK member.
I know. But like, have him, like, if it was at the case of Fortnite, if this was happening in Fortnite, have him be like, I'm not going to play Fortnite until this gets fixed.
Yeah,
like,
no, that'd be so effective, and you get Drake to show up.
Yeah, get Drake to show up and be like, yo, man, I'm Canadian. I don't know anything about Drake.
Like, looking at the way I feel like this problem can actually be solved is again not by going in and just virtually killing the abusers, because there is
which really does nothing.
Yeah, there is zero evidence that I have read, because again, like, me and Dan reported on Gamergate while it was happening.
I'm so sorry.
It was a bad time. It's dark days in video gaming, and things have gotten marginally better, but are still not great.
Sure.
But when we were doing that, I was looking into a lot of stories about like the root causes of why people harass online, and what is effective and ineffective ways to counteract that. And there is zero evidence I saw throughout that research that indicated that going on and just killing that person's avatar would in any way help that problem at all.
Psychologically and gamically, it doesn't make any sense, because in terms of the game's rules, they're just going to be back. In terms of psychology, they're probably just more pissed.
What you need, so yeah, like I was saying, there is a right way to do this, and this is not that way. No. I feel so bad about it, because you can tell, at least for the main spokeswoman, and actually all the people who appeared in the stream, that they really care about this issue. They seem like they sincerely care about this issue and want to fix it and make it better. And I just really, really wish that they were going about it in a way that would be effective.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of this, what looks like an early 2000s game show.
Yeah, oh god, it's so weird. It's just, I highly encourage anyone to look for the stream on YouTube and try and watch like a version that doesn't have horrible commentary, just like a regular one, or if they put the VOD up on their Twitch, because it is worth watching just to see how truly bizarre it is.
Yeah, it is very strange.
So that's, man, I could actually talk about this for like a whole episode. I think this is a
Yeah,
super interesting topic.
it is.
But we don't have time, so
We don't have time to talk about the ghost hunters. I mean, the bully hunters,
hunters.
the ghostbusters, the bully busters.
Yes.
That's what they should have called them, is bully busters.
Ooh, nah, it's too silly.
It is. It's a little silly.
Too silly. All right. So games that just came out.
Just games that just came out.
Owlboy.
The bully. How about the bully hunters video game? Maybe that's what they're working towards.
Oh God. Ugh. So Owlboy came out on the Xbone and the PS4 on the 10th.
Gorgeous game.
Very
Gorgeous
very nice
game.
looking. Hellblade came out on the Xbone on the 11th.
Supposedly an awesome game. Not played it.
Yeast Origin.
Yeast.
Yeast Origins.
The
How is
origin of
bread made?
yeast. It's the yeast adventure.
Came out on the Xbox One. Let's see here. Today we had games I've never heard about.
As Divine Hearts?
As Divine Hearts and Regalia of Men and Monarchs Royal Edition.
Is that tied to Final Fantasy 15 in some way?
I have no idea. Just no idea what either of those games are. Sorry, I didn't do my research. I'm a bad host. But on the 17th, we have Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. There have been some early talk about that, about how people are like, ooh, this is so good.
People like them Yakuza games. So
they're very well made games. And on the 20th, so next Friday, that's the big one. We are getting God of War for the PS4.
The G of W.
Yes. And we are also getting Nintendo Labo.
Labo.
Yeah.
So on the God of War front, I just want to say that I don't know if you've been keeping up with the reviews, but I'm legitimately shocked at how well it is reviewing, like tens across the board.
Yeah, no, every early review of that game says it's like the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, and I'm like, I guess I don't believe it, but
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, it looks really good, and it certainly looks gorgeous, and I'm sure it controls well, but does that mean that it should have the perfect score ever?
Right. Well, the thing is that most people are praising its story and pacing, and I'm like, that's surprising to me. But who knows? I'll never play it because I don't own a PS4.
Yeah. I'm just really excited to see there's some early reviews for Labo kits, but I'm excited to hear about what that they're actually like when they're on the market.
This Nintendo cardboard's 10 out of 10.
Yep. The other thing, last thing I want to mention before we sign off is there was this video I was watching that's just fantastic. That's the David Harbour of Stranger Things fame.
The sheriff.
Yeah, the sheriff was invited to go to a dungeon, drink from a tiny goblet, and play God of War and just talk about it with the game dev and another person. And it was very fun to watch because he's just a very charismatic guy. And he got good at it. Like as they're showing, it's like a 4-minute video and they just cut pieces of footage. So it's like farther into the video, you can tell that he's like gotten the hang of the controls and is just like beating up all these guys and getting like real good at it.
Yeah.
Oof, I was like, good job.
Word is that he's a real deal gamer. Mm-hmm. You know, he plays like StarCraft and stuff like that.
Sweet. Oh man, the most hardcore of gamers.
Yeah. What's his character's name? Sheriff Harper? Deputy Harper? No, not deputy.
Sheriff Hopper?
Hopper. Yeah.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's it for us. We went over, but not by such an insane margin. Man, I want to talk about Bully Hunters some more. That's such a good topic.
We'll have a special Patreon edition that's all about Bully Hunters.
I'm really hoping that shows up in the news more later so that we can talk about it more in future episodes, because I think it's a fascinating thing. But so the
weirdness that is Bully Hunters.
Yeah. So that's it for us over at Don't Copy That Floppy for this week. If you want to check us out on social media, the places we are active is Facebook by searching Don't Copy That Floppy, or Twitter, but with our handle being at DCTF Podcast. If you want to check out show archives, you can go on chipbit.net, our gracious hosts. You can check out a show archive on that website. You can also listen to their 24/7 streaming Chipbit radio feature. Very cool. And if you want to support the show, there are two great ways to do that. One is to go onto iTunes, subscribe to us there, and like and review the show, or rate and review the show, rather. Give us a good review, or none at all. And the other way you can support the show, if you're feeling particularly generous, is we are on Patreon. And you can go and give all your Patreon dollars to us. Hooray.
Yay.
And that's that. So, until next time, Chris, what do people have to remember?
Don't copy that floppy.